First of all, a very, very warm welcome to everyone. Good evening. And it's great to have all of you on board for this first session, first webinar that we're doing on insurance-related matters in health and well-being. I would just like to set the context for this session by stating what exactly we're trying to address and what are the problem statements that we are going to be looking into. So we're primarily looking into how we could strengthen the employee health system with both a combination of group health insurance along with employee health benefits. And in order to help us out with this, we have two really distinguished guests with us. First of all, we have Priya Deshmukh with us. She's the COO of ManipalCigna. She has over 25 years of work experience across multiple functions, ranging from operations, strategy, business development, and other functions. She's also recognized as one of the top 100 women in finance, as by the Association of International Wealth Management of India. So Priya, a very, very warm welcome to you, and thank you so much for sparing your time.
Thank you, Rahul, and thank you to the ekincare team. Looking forward to a conversation. Thank you.
And along with Priya, we have Mr. Stanley George with us. Stanley is the Vice President, Human Resources of Hexaware Technologies Limited. He, again, has a great amount of work experience spanning over 30 years across multiple multinational companies. He's also recognized as one of the most influential HR professionals out of India. So, Stanley, thank you so much for joining us and being here with us on the session.
Thank you, Rahul, so much. Thank you everyone for joining and looking forward to this session.
Yeah, looking forward to a great session. So, Stanley, Priya, I mean, as we all know, over the last 2 years and a little over that now, ever since COVID has hit us, I think a lot of our perspectives in terms of how we look at employee health and well-being has probably taken a new twist, taken a new turn. And I think that has also change the way in which we look at how we are providing employee wellness benefits to our clients or to our employees. And I think that kind of forms the crux of how we're going to talk about how insurance and employee wellness benefits have kind of evolved over the last 2 years. Keeping that in mind, I want to probably start off with you, Stanley, with our first question for the day. What are your views on the current state of employee health, not just including insurance and the wellness benefits piece in the corporate workplace as on today?
Well, thank you for inviting me for this webinar. And let me start off by telling that I think over the last 2 years, we have seen a lot of things change, right? So once the pandemic hit us, the way we were looking at employee wellness and the way we were looking at insurance for our employees vis-a-vis in the last 2 years, there's been a complete turnaround, complete change, right? And personally, what I've been observing from the HR fraternity and when I look down at the employee needs and how to attract talent, one basic thing that I found is earlier insurance was more of a transactional kind of or event-based kind of a need, right? But today it has gone to a situation where employees, or prospective candidates, even before they join the company, apart from the salary and other benefits, one key factor that they look at is your wellness and your insurance programs, right? And that in many candidates, that kind of becomes one of the deciding factors of whether they want to join the company or not. Because end of the day, all these programs, it also kind of reflects the company's view on the employee wellness part. And it has evolved. Like if I look at the pros and cons of the insurance programs and the wellness programs that companies have, some of the pros that I can kind of see is, the coverage has increased, right? Especially if you look at only the insurance piece of it. Right, what used to be just very specific areas where employee needs to be covered. Now the overall insurance coverage has increased, right?
True.
And yes, coverage for families. And earlier it used to stop, insurance programs especially used to stop with insurance coverage. But now it has gone beyond that. You're talking about employee wellness. They have come up with the technology where you can kind of have online consultation, especially during COVID. That's one major change that we saw, right? Where doctors were available online and you were able to consult, or even you were able to visit the nearest hospital, right? And you need not check with anybody. You just get into the app and find out the nearest hospital and visit. So those were some of the kind of key changes that I could see. But on the flip side, again, there could be, some of the things like, the cost factor has gone up, and especially post-COVID, premiums have gone up, right? And yes, the service levels again, that depends from insurance, one insurance player to the other. So it's become very competitive out there. But end of the day, if you ask me overall as a package, if you ask me, a whole lot of improvements have happened. And I think today the employee benefits that are there vis-a-vis pre-COVID days, I think it has improved drastically.
Right. I mean, if I could just, add on to that, have you also noticed a big change in terms of the questions employees are asking during, say, a hiring process, or when I guess even employees are looking at this as an option while evaluating an organization to join as well?
Exactly. So that's what I said. So one of the key factors, which actually attract talent to your organization is your insurance and your wellness programs, right?
Right.
And that is one thing that prospective candidates always ask: are my parents covered?
Right.
Right. How much premium do I pay, or is it taken over by the entire premium? Load is taken over by the company.
Right.
Or the other question they might ask is, yes, what happens once I leave the company? What happens to a newborn? I am going to get married after, say, maternity benefits. Right. So these are some things that they weigh in before they join the company.
True. And Priya, I guess as for you've probably been on the other side of the story in terms of as an insurance provider. So how has the landscape changed in terms of how your point of view from the Manipal-Cigna side in terms of how organizations are maybe engaging in discussions with you in terms of what they want to include as part of their insurance packages and things like that?
So thank you, Rahul, and immensely valued perspective Stanley shared. And during COVID and post-COVID as well, we're seeing increasing change in the way organizations as well as individuals are looking at insurance needs. Insurance in the past, before COVID, was probably a push product. Including in the group, corporate environment, because it's all about total rewards. But now people realize, it has become like a priority, and to understand before joining an organization as to what are the benefit structures like, are my parents going to be covered? What is the size of my insurance? Is it, a small layer of insurance of some insured, or is it going to give me complete protection? All of these features or aspects employees indeed are looking at because COVID has brought in a lot of awareness and a lot of understanding of how costs, healthcare costs are rising, and the need to be financially protected, not only from source of income and all the other assets, financial assets, but also from a health, kind of protecting yourself from the inflation and the kind of expenses that could happen because of an health, eventuality. Possibly. Right. We see a huge amount of change in the way corporates are engaging with us. Right. It's good to see. I mean, I've been around for 2.5 decades, and it's good to see this change because, it's not just some policy at a corporate level. It is people are getting into the nuances as to what kind of base covers, what kind of, GPAs are being, kind of offered. How is the top up going to help? What are the other specialized products for people living with condition, parental coverage? So now the real conversation and change that we are seeing, is happening in the space.
Right. So I guess, people are being a lot more aware of things in terms of asking the right questions as well, I guess, from both sides, I guess.
Yeah, and Rahul, if I might add, to what Priya said, I think pre-COVID, if you look at it, the number of employees, the population, even outside your company, who have actually experienced a hospital or an insurance process, that was quite low, right? Could be about 10% of the population or 15% of the population. But I think that COVID has made a lot of people to go back to a hospital, get back to hospitals for whatever reason, experience the insurance process. And that is actually leading them to ask a lot of questions, a lot of insights they're giving us.
Right.
And that is also kind of forcing insurance companies to tailor make the products and other things.
Yeah, that's a great point you bring up. So, I mean, I used to work with Pidilite earlier, so I was selling waterproofing chemicals, Dr. Fix It, right? So we had a saying back then, nobody wanted to fix a leakage until the leakage actually happens. And I think that's very relevant to the whole insurance experience as well, right? Until and unless you go through that whole process, nobody really used to give a deep thought or understand the nuances behind an insurance. And I think that's largely changed thanks to COVID. I mean, fortunately or unfortunately. But I think that has brought about a change in mindset, which I guess is good in the long run.
Yeah.
So great. I mean, great points there. Let me move on to the next question. I think this is more in line with you, Priya. So, what in your view, is like for small and medium enterprises, how is it being made more viable for them, and how does group health insurance actually benefit an SME today? Because coming from a ekincare perspective, we interact with a lot of SMEs and MSMEs for our smart cover product, which includes insurance as well. And they face a lot of challenges in terms of getting the right product, getting the right costing, and all of that. So how do you see this in the SME and MSME sector for the insurance players?
Great question. And, quite frankly, SMEs and MSM, medium enterprises, both of these are value adding the country's, economy. And they are really making strides of progress. Talking about, benefits of insurance for them, actually, while they're trying and making an impact and trying and forging ahead in the line of business that they've chosen, it's important that, the core employees have a sense of trust and loyalty. And that will come and stem from, protection that the company offers in terms of all, adversities, and health, happens to be one. So for any unplanned expenses, any kind of issues that could happen, so people would want to get covered, or people would want to have that assurance that those expenses are kind of managed and taken care of. So, for SMEs and medium enterprises, it's important to have a holistic employee care. Having a combination of how the insurance program is kind of bundled together, understanding the needs of the company depending on the line of business that they are into, and the demography of the employees who work for them. Unless all of those combinations are taken into account, just a one size fit all insurance cover would not really make sense, and it would end up, they're very sensitive to what is the kind of pricing that they can pay, how much amount of monies they can kind of allocate for employee well-being and kind of insurance and benefits, so to say. So it's important to really structure a tailor-made, specific, targeted kind of an insurance solution for them, and thereby help them kind of focus on their core jobs or core activities that they are slated to really perform. That's the first part of your question. And talking about how can they face problems, these companies face problems, and they're mushrooming, and they are really taking the economy forward. So in view of that, insurance company like us, ManipalCigna, we do cover small enterprises. Our coverage starts with at least 7 employees, and that 7 employees limit is from a risk mitigation standpoint, kind of protecting from anti-selection, protecting from any kind of abuse. But we do offer cover for more than 7 employees, seven or more kind of employees. And we do, before offering this solution, we do make sure that we understand the backdrop, we understand the nature of work, and what kind of combination of products from a GMC, GPA, any kind of other solutions that the company and the employees can benefit. And we do understand that they are price sensitive. So we don't really bung in a lot of unnecessary or maybe value add, so to say, and depending on the requirement. Health insurance, gone are the days when health insurance is only about IPD claim. Now it's all about, rather than sick care, it's a well care, or maybe fitness and wellness. So a lot of fringe benefits around that can be added to make sure that employees remain upbeat, in terms of their health and well-being. So those are areas that we, add in, and partner like ekincare really, kind of comes to fore in terms of offering those kind of solutions. So yes, we do understand that they need to focus on their core business. In nutshell, creating solutions that really suit their requirement, because each company has a unique requirement, unique demography, and making sure that we work alongside to create a holistic yet economic and price sensitive kind of a product offering is what remains at the center of whatever we offer to these companies.
Right. Also, Priya, I mean, if I could just ask you off the cuff, I mean, over the last couple of years, has the SME and MSME vertical for insurance company grown much more than what it did, say, pre-COVID? Because I think
Absolutely.
over the last couple of years, I think a GMC has been mandated also by the government of India now as a mandatory health benefit to be offered to all employees. So I just wanted to understand how that sector is viewing insurance and whether it's grown a lot over the last couple of years.
Yes, the answer is yes. And not only with the kind of regulatory or mandatory government push, but
Right.
also because of the change in outlook and how insurance is looked up to,
Right.
as a requirement. So we've seen a push from both sides because of both of these pillars and aspects. And our company, as well as generally the health insurance space, has seen huge explosive growth in this segment.
Right.
During COVID, pre-COVID also this segment was growing, but during COVID, because of requirements of COVID protocols and all of that, we saw specific COVID related products were, focused upon. There was a large demand, and we sold a huge amount of units, in this segment. And even after COVID, post-COVID also, while the product requirement has changed, insurance requirement hasn't really gone down. And we've seen, tremendous amount of growth. And, also the industry at large has seen great, progression and, CAGR of this particular segment. So this is a segment which is of focus and is really, kind of thriving and adding to our overall P&L.
Right. Thank you so much, Priya. I think great insights there. Stanley, if I could come back to you, I'd probably want to get your opinion in terms of, how an organization, with reference to a basic cover looks at insurance, and maybe you could throw some light in terms of how you viewed it, say, before COVID and how you view it now post-COVID, because I'm sure there would have been some changes in your perspective in terms of how you were looking out for these certain benefits on the insurance front.
Right. So, as a company, what we do is, even forget the Hexaware, even in my previous stints in other organizations, what we used to do was two things. So one, you can actually segregate your insurance part, into two aspects. One is, kind of what is going to be your claim ratio.
Right.
So, and that basically decides as to what kind of products and what kind of insurance companies that you go to.
Right.
Like, for example, in one of the companies that I work for, the claim ratio was close to about 120, 130%. Right. And with that kind of a payment ratio, you will not have any insurance companies coming to you and asking for business. Right. It's a loss for them. So a handful of one or two companies that come to us, probably we may have to make do with that. We don't, as an employer, we don't basically have a choice there. Right. But when you look at the other side, where your claim ratio is actually low and you have options of insurance companies coming to you. So one of the key things that we look at is your premium rates. Right. So what is going to be the cost to the company vis-a-vis the offerings that the insurance company gives us? So that plays actually a very key role in deciding that, because end of the day, see, some companies have a policy of adding this premium cost to the employees' TCTC, right?
Right.
So that plays a key role there. What kind of premiums that we pay. The second important aspect is your coverage. For the premium that you pay, what is the kind of coverage the insurance companies give us, right? And the third is obviously the hospital tie-ups, and in terms of hospital coverage they have.
That's the network hospitals, basically.
Yeah, the network hospitals, right? And that actually plays a very key role, because in some of the companies, or even my current company, we look at the demographics of employee, right? Where are they placed? And we actually, match it up with the kind of network hospitals in that area.
Right.
At the end of the day, and personally, like I've been a major user of the insurance providers, due to the health situation at home. And I've experienced that, right? So when you actually land in a place and where you don't have network hospitals, you have to travel 15, 20 kilometers, it doesn't make sense.
Right.
Correct. And that is one. And the fourth important part, which actually has come through the employee feedbacks and which actually plays a critical role, is the employee experience part. The employee experience actually plays a very, very key role in deciding a particular insurance company. Right. So the way the claims have been settled,
Right.
Right. The way, what I should say, the rejects have been happening for the claims.
Right.
Right. The way, your insurance company treats the employee. Right. And the speed at which they respond to the queries and the speed in which the claims are being settled.
Right.
So these are some of the key aspects that actually employer will look at before even they decide on. So I'll give you an example, right? So some of the personal experience that I have gone through, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you actually, the doctor gives a discharge summary in the morning at 10 o'clock,
mm-hmm.
right? And by the time the insurance company decides on the amount to be paid to the hospital at 10:30 in the night,
mm-hmm.
that's a very bad employee experience, if you ask me.
Right.
Correct. So, factors like this actually kind of are factored in by the companies before they decide on the insurance product or the company.
Right.
And of course, just to add on the other, like what Priya said, the fringe benefits or the additional benefits that the insurance company bring on the table.
Right.
Right. So,
I think it's great that you're taking employee feedback as well when you're making this decision, because I think that's largely something that's not uniformly adopted everywhere. I've been part of multiple organizations, and no one's really asked me for feedback on this. But I think that's a really great step, because end of the day, they are the ones who are experiencing the whole process of going through a claims and all of that. So, Priya, anything you would like to add on that aspect from the insurer's side, in terms of how the whole process is going through today vis-a-vis how it used to be a lot earlier?
No, absolutely. Completely second what Stanley mentioned. Not only as an insurance service provider or insurance provider, but also as an employee and a corporate, because we ourselves cover our employees as well, as the requirement goes. And yes, totally agree. The process of integration of feedback from the employees, how things have changed and evolved, and this process of selecting what plan really works is across a broker in many cases. Depending on the need, there is a insurance broker that plays a role. The corporate, the HR benefits team, and of course, the insurance experts who are actually going to offer the product offering, and at the back end supported by underwriting, pricing, and all the other aspects of it. And most of the companies who already have insurance, whatever is the claims experience for the year, which is a year wherein the policy is expiring, that would play a very important role, in what is the new structure going to be, what is the claim experience, so to say. And there are two kinds of policies. One is a parental policy, and second is an employee and spouse or employee policy. And both of these policies have different demography, different experience, as Stanley was mentioning. And all of these aspects play a role. Now, it's a combination of at what cost and what is the affordability versus what are the benefits that the employee would expect. A balance between the two is what is extremely critical. And from an employee standpoint, really, when you look at a group insurance, you have 0-day waiting period. It's a day one cover. There's no waiting period even for known, named illnesses. So it's like a very, very big thing because, any private insurance, IPMI, you try and buy, there would be certain waiting periods, certain product conditions, certain, bells and whistles, and maybe control mechanics. But when it is a group policy, it's all inclusive, very robust, all, covered. So those are aspects which employees, all of us, including me, we may not have visibility to, but there's a lot of work that happens between the HR team at the backdrop, along with the other key constituents and stakeholders. So yeah, I mean, all of this would play an important role in selecting a cover.
Right, great. Okay, moving on, I think the next question is, I think more in line with you, Priya. So I think what we want to look at is how can insurance providers help in, say, the growth of small businesses in India? And by this, I mean, this is more in line with risk and a financial perspective. What role would, an insurance play in the progress of a small organization in India today?
Sure. So, there's a very interesting take And, I've been grounded in this industry for so many years, and I feel so, brimming with a lot of enthusiasm and passion, and never felt tired doing what I do. The
Right.
reason is because this is a very benevolent industry.
Right.
We are not, most of us, the private health insurance companies or even PSUs, we are not for-profit organizations. We are
Right.
a commercial entity. But
Right.
amidst that, we are kind of extending financial and mental protection, mental peace for people against any unforeseen event. If you talk about COVID, I mean, look at the amount of billions of dollars of monies that all insurance companies who had not even priced for COVID. So
Right.
COVID was a never before unprecedented event. I mean, it
Right.
affected everybody. But, one, the healthcare industry who, rose up from risking their own lives and being at the forefront. And second, the insurance companies, we all stood up to the cause and tried and did whatever it took. I mean, there were days where many of us did not even go home. I mean, while the whole world was operating from home, trying and doing things remotely, we did not have even 24 hours, because this was the time for us to really prove our mettle of what
Right.
we really preach. I mean, we say that we are in the business of really protecting lives and offering peace. So right now was a time when the whole world was battling, and no BCP would work in COVID, right? I mean, one location goes down, you would have other location coming in. You could have global locations coming in. Now this event, you would have no other BCP, because it was all over the over the whole globe. So
Right.
this was important, this aspect of living up and truing up to your cause of your passion. I mean, our mission is to really help people, right?
Right.
As insurers, that came to life for all of us, and it was a true test of what we stand for.
Right.
Talking about this particular space of small businesses, look, these companies are trying to create niche, service delivery, or maybe certain consumer goods, certain other aspects. While they are doing so, protecting them from any kind of, insurance, we have FDI, we have investments, we have
Right.
invested in this business. So while these companies are growing up, not any company would grow up like a big company. So while they are setting up, while they are growing up, we really offer them that protection, that sense of security in terms of any accidents, any kind of health event, any kind of permanent and temporary disability or loss of pay. So
Right.
that is how indirectly we are contributing to their security, and thereby, in some sense, growth is what I would say.
Right.
And these SMEs and MSMEs are companies having relatively younger population, and that kind of demography. As an insurer, we have found this segment to be much more profitable compared to large corporates, where there is always a a play where large corporates would say, I'm giving you large volume, but with that large volume you would have larger losses coming your way. So we see that this particular segment, we at ManipalCigna, we call a spade a spade. We see
Right.
that this segment is profitable, and not every company will be profitable, but at a portfolio level, if you take a view, this is a segment that needs investment of
Right.
time, energy, product, pricing, and it has really worked well for us and helped the companies grow in return as well. So
Right.
it's like a synergy that has worked out well on both sides.
I guess in certain ways, it kind of ends up being like a safety net for smaller organizations who are right at the middle of building their business, so that they don't need to worry about the other smaller nuances, which is probably taken care of by the insurance piece. So
Absolutely. And also attracting the talent. I mean, the right skill set and the talent, without the talent having to worry about, oh, I don't work for the top 5 companies, top 20 companies.
right.
Do I have comparable benefits, at least from a basic Maslow's theory, basic requirements
Right.
of an employee, so to say. So
Right.
that really helps them.
Right. Great. So, I would probably want to dive a little more into, I think we touched upon the topic of utilization of the GMC in organizations. Obviously, the industry standard, I guess it ranges anywhere between, say, a 7 to 10%, or roughly about 12% in the market in a particular organization. Now, I mean, there are obviously two sides to it, in terms of some would say that that's really low, but for some people that might sound as being pretty high. So Stanley, if I could ask you, what, in your opinion, is actually leading to the utilization of a group health insurance being low? Is there, say, a lack of awareness amongst employees, or is there something that can be done in terms of educating your employees about the coverage that they have? Because I think I've seen multiple examples across industries where, people switch a lot of jobs. They know they have an insurance, but they don't really know what all it covers. So is that a contributing factor to this, or is it something else in your view? I'd like to know your opinion on that.
So there are a couple of factors, but I think, as you said, lack of awareness is one of the key factors that is actually affecting the coverage part of it, right? So awareness, I would say, it is two things I would like to put it here. One is kind of awareness of the policy that is there. Second is probably lack of interest. Right, in getting to know more details about the policy, right? Unless and until they are hit by it, right? And there's a requirement or a need to kind of avail the policy. Right. So that is one thing. And the second most biggest aspect is, many of the youngsters today, they don't know how an insurance industry works. Right. So it is more like an entitlement rather than kind of a benefit that's been given to the employees, right? So they say, if I pay a premium of X amount, I need so much of about 10 items on my kitty, right? But it doesn't work that way. So probably that I could kind of attribute it to the lack of awareness or whatever, you may put it that way. But end of the day, it is a kind of, they don't know, they are not aware as to how the insurance itself works per se. Right. Third important aspect is, one of the major reasons is, during pandemic, especially, many of the employee base, they have actually moved out to the rural places or rural space or places where you don't have actually network hospitals. Right. So that has actually again played a major role in terms of less coverage. So the people have to travel 50, 60 kilometers to reach a network hospital. Doesn't make sense for them. Right. So they might as well spend their own money and go to a local hospital there. The fourth important part is the employee experience part. So employee experience, as I said earlier, that plays a major role, in an employee deciding to take their own personal policies and live with it, vis-a-vis, making use of a company given policy, right? So if your personal policy from a particular group is actually working well, why should he go and avail a company policy where there's a 20% or a 10% co-pay, he has to forgo money, right? So that employee experience part of it plays a key role there. And I again spoke about the coverage part. A lot of insurance companies, they have what I should say, I don't know the real technical term, where they kind of disallow a lot of items in your bill, right? So if an employee has undergone that kind of an experience, that again plays a major role. Saying if my personal insurer can kind of pay me those kind of areas, those kind of items on a bill, why should I go for a company basis?
Right.
And fourth and the last important part is word of mouth. So that plays a very important role.
Right. So, I mean, that's a very interesting point you've brought up, in terms of how an employee views, certain things which are covered and certain things which are not covered. While I now have about 10 months understanding insurance, I think, Priya, there's a flip side to this in terms of maybe how, I think this is again an awareness issue, right? Because most of these things are pretty much charted out in a policy. It is all there for everyone to be aware of, but I guess that information percolation just doesn't really happen. So I guess that's a challenge. And how can insurance companies, play a bigger role in terms of pushing this awareness out and working together with the HRs or with organizations?
Sure. Interesting, right? I mean, a company is offering you a group insurance cover. In case of eventuality, that cover can come to your rescue at no additional cost, no additional effort. But the sheer lack of awareness, and I have so many people calling and, quoting the name that I have, MediAssist policy, I have Raksha policy. All of these are TPAs and they don't even know who is their primary insurance company, so to say, leave alone, understanding the benefit structure. So clearly, it goes back to the fact that there is lack of awareness.
Right.
And in certain cases, Stanley very comprehensively mentioned, the benefit coverage of what is allowed, not allowed versus a personal policy that is existing. However, I do believe that not many people who are working in corporates who have a GMC tend to buy a personal cover. That penetration is very low. That awareness is very low. But whoever would have it would go for the first option to use his or her personal policy, where there are no co-pays, there are no sub-limits, and those are more comprehensive policies as a choice to do away with any kind of hassle, because any disallowances would end up being out of pocket. And best is to use the one which is all comprehensive. And of course, benefit structure, all the other aspects will really play a role. Talking about how can insurance companies play a role, things have evolved over the last couple of years, where there's a campaign, there's a enrollment window that opens up within the broker and the corporate and the insurance company. There's a lot of song and dance that happens on sending out emailers, trying and creating that buzz, helping, like for instance, in our case, I write an email to all my employees that you must be busy, but this is an important moment or important aspect of whatever you work very hard, I mean, to earn whatever salaries, or to take care of your families, and you may not find the time to really enroll your parents or enroll your spouse, but this is the most important thing, to have that security, that sense of peace of mind, so to say, in case some eventuality happens. So that bit, insurers are playing increasing roles. Where brokers are involved, they are playing active role. A lot of change that has happened. There's a tool that has been created. I mean, for example, we send out the links. It opens up for the period of enrollment. There is a SMS that is sent. Of late there are bots who are kind of through which there's push messaging, IVR messaging being played. So a lot of activity has evolved over the years. But ultimately speaking, how much employee interest and awareness, it'll boil down to that aspect at the end of the day. And that's where active and partaking with the HR evangelists will be very, very important, is what I would say. And I do agree with Stanley. The experience in the past with the same insurance company or maybe other insurance company would play a very, very important and pivotal role, whether or not I would file a claim. And even if there is, to extend what Stanley mentioned, if there is no network hospital, most of the insurance companies do offer reimbursement claims. Of course, reimbursement claims are, because of various reasons, and we can't paint everybody with the same paintbrush, but we do see, larger fraud coming in, larger abuse coming in. So the reimbursement claims are put through those lenses of investigation.
Probably takes a little longer to
it takes a little longer. And that may not be, a very happy,
a good experience.
Yes.
No, that's a very interesting point that you brought up. First, I mean, I'll address the the awareness bit. I mean, that's something we at ekincare are also trying to solve for. So the Smart Cover product, which includes the group health insurance and the unified benefits which we have on our platform, what we are trying to now do is engage with our clients every quarter, so that we can drive in those points about what all coverages their insurance has for that particular organization, so that at least we do our bit in terms of ensuring that the employees of the clients are aware of what they can avail and what they can't avail. But coming back to the claims experience and that particular piece of how the number of employees, say, in an organization who are making a claim will be pretty low. So there are two aspects to this. This is mostly for you, Priya. While on the one side, number of claims being less is always good for you in terms of a renewal, say, for the next year.
No. We are in the business of paying all genuine claims as per contract.
There is also the flip side to this, in the sense that from an experience perspective, that's that many lesser instances you have in terms of creating an impact on the client's experience with the insurance company. So that kind of throws a massive focus and light onto the whole claims experience process. So what are your thoughts on that, and what are the steps that insurance companies generally tend to look at while building a seamless claims process?
Sure. So, elephant in the room, as an insurer, things have, it's what are you selling? You're selling, you buy a Maruti Suzuki versus a Mercedes Benz.
Right.
You go to the to the shop, you buy these commodities, you end up paying for it and you end up getting
True.
that.
True.
Like insurance, because insurance is nothing but a A4 size paper,
Right.
which is a testament of a promise that we're making to the end
Right.
consumer,
True.
whether corporate or retail.
Right.
And in times of need, and when rubber hits the road, if that promise is not really befittingly delivered, it
Right.
really creates that trust deficit and imbalance between what the industry has been preaching versus what the experience on the ground is.
Right.
And trust me, because of lack of data, because of so much of fraud that is existing on the, and when I say fraud, it's abuse. So, in certain cases, certain elements are not covered. So you've
Right.
got to really declare, your health status in all honesty. So all of these are important aspects. And as an insurer, first thing first, if no one were to experience insurance, why would someone, renew the policy? Or why would a corporate end up, the corporate HR, people like Stanley would think that nobody is using it, no one is seeing value in this particular virtue or a product, then why should I invest and put my dollar and unnecessarily inflate my operating expense or my budget? So
Right.
it's important for us to understand that the utilization and the interfaces of insurance,
Right.
unless you create those opportunities, the experience and the stickiness doesn't come. So gone are the days where insurers would say, no claims is a good news for me, because at the end of the day, we need to have right set of claims as per the pricing assumption.
Right.
If there is an outage, then it's a bad news not only for the insurer but also for the corporate, because you have to shell out
Absolutely.
more money
That impacts you on your renewal, basically.
Correct. There are only so many insurance companies. You can keep hopping insurers every year, but soon you would end up having run out of all the choices. So
Right.
having said that, insurance is a risk pooling business. So
Right.
you would cover 100 people, assuming that maybe 10, 15 in a retail segment, 6 to 10, is what is the utilization. In a group, it is, higher, because it's all encompassing,
True.
robust and no waiting period kind of an product. So
Right.
around 15 to 20% is what we see as incidence rate across the industry.
Right.
And people may feel incidence is low, but those people are going to end up spending that monies that have been collected for, as insurance premium for the sum insured. And as we can imagine, whatever sum insured we pay, the premium we pay, sum insured is multiples and multitudes of that. So
Right.
obviously, we can't judge it by, say 15 to 20%. It's also about how much monies are paid. So that's important
Right.
aspect that I want our viewers to understand.
Absolutely.
And talking about, as an insurance company, what is our product? Our product is claims.
Right.
And the virtue of that claim is cashless. So, nobody has to pay the money.
Right.
That's an additional benefit that has been given to the insured. Now,
True.
that is serviced, motor insurance is serviced through motor, service centers. Similarly, health insurance is serviced to healthcare providers and hospitals. That's how we have them on our panel.
Right.
We try and give that cost arbitrage or better premium on account of utilization and on account of whatever discount we get on the charges that these hospitals are going to levy for
Right.
those treatments versus a retail, walk-in customer.
Right.
Given all of that, it's a very complex process of putting the whole claim process in order. It's a dependency on the hospital. What time is the consumer walking into the hospital? Was a doctor available, not available? What time did the customer may have given the papers to the hospital? What time is the admin desk, the TPA desk as they call it, those papers have reached to the insurer or the TPA? All of those factors play a role.
Right.
Technology has been a great boon. And things have changed, over the last so many years. In the last, 5 to 10 years, I remember the days where I used to go to the hospitals and request them, please, hamare panel pe aa jao. And they would say, cash patients hai, why should we come on your panel? Insurance kya cheez hai, hame to pata nahi. Though from that to around 60% of volume coming from insurance. So things have changed.
Right.
And with that, the prioritization and the attention and focus is also changed. Insurers, the critical parameters that insurers look at, there is a realization, in private players that the experience will play a pivotal role in the choice of insurance, product or insurer that the consumer is going to make, including the corporate HR. And that's where, 2 hours, 60 minutes, those are kind of benchmarks of cashless approvals that have been set. And, as Stanley was mentioning, even if you pay like 98% of your claims within that 60 minutes to, say 120 minutes, even the remaining 2% will play a role from a word of mouth or, experience being shared. And that will hit us as an industry. So we have acknowledged that fact. We put technology, we put, during COVID, initially there was a rule that claims have to be sent in hard copies, right? Unless it was a large corporate where an exception was made. During COVID, we, like ManipalCigna, we made a representation to the regulator that please allow soft copy claims, please allow claims through, our digital platform. So all of those changes have been made. Communication, like status updates on SMS, WhatsApp, continuous pushing, through digital medium, the status updates that, out of a 1 lakh claim that has been made, we are approving our 80,000, 20,000 is not approved because of XYZ reason. If you explain that to the consumer and there is a valid ground, because at the end of the day, as an insurer, we want to pay all claims, whatever is payable, right? As per contract. But are we communicating in a non-jargon? Because if I say some medical term, the consumer is not going to understand. So all of those aspects, creating simpler products, creating language that is understood by a layman, continuously pushing communication through various medium. So today, if I send a hard copy, it's not going to work. I have to be on the platforms and the medium on which a consumer is available. So the awareness platforms have changed. We have done a lot of campaigning around health insurance zaruri hai. A lot of stuff has happened, and we do acknowledge as an industry, building that trust index and bridging that gap of trust deficit between the end consumer, the corporate HR, the broker, and us is extremely important for us to survive in this industry. So those are things that I would say are critical and important for us to thrive as an industry.
True. And I guess we are at the cusp of technology playing a very, very big role in this industry. I think India is probably just going in that phase of transitioning into a completely technology-led insurance experience, which I think is exciting to look forward to, because that will simplify a lot of things for a customer in terms of experiencing the whole process.
So can I just add one point to that?
Sure.
Now, of late, we have invested in technology where there is a digital machine learning and AI model. So rather than putting every case, which is reimbursement, into a fraud investigation, we have propensity models, which look at the trends, fast learning trends, and only those, high propensity top deciles are being sent for investigation. Similarly, claims which are like no man touch. So where there is a clear understanding that cataract is covered and there is a package for cataracts, then why do you need a claim adjudicator to look at that claim?
True.
So those are, innovation and
so basically standardizing things so that you can make faster decisions on those. Yeah. Got it. Great. I mean, great points from both sides here. I'll move on to the next question. Stanley, I think you can take this up. Keeping in mind how the current landscape has changed in terms of the world we live in today. A lot of work from home, COVID having hit us, and people becoming a lot more conscious about their well-being and health. How do you see GMC, group health insurance, evolving in today's world and being in sync with today's needs for people? Because I think back maybe say 2-3 years ago, I don't think that level of thought and understanding went into, say, designing a GMC from an employer's point of view as well, in terms of what actually would fit what an employee needs. So what has changed, and how do you see the whole group health insurance evolving and being in sync with what we need today?
So great question, but I think the biggest change that we have seen, at least even in the pre-COVID days, in the last 5 years, has been the generational change in the workforce, right? So you have a very young workforce. On the other side, you will have a kind of an argument saying this is a young workforce, so they don't fall ill, they may not use insurance too much. But at the same time, there are needs, which the young workforce have, their expectations rather, right? And this is one group, or Gen Y or Gen Z, or whatever you call them. There is a need for them to get instant information or updates. Right. So while deciding on a insurance provider or a TPA, I think what is very important is, how quickly are you able to turn around things? How quickly are you able to get back to the employee and give him or her an update as to what's happening in the back end? Right. So that is one critical aspect. The second important thing what this generation loves is, to take feedback. right? So when they go to a hospital and that hospital says, look, we are not covered under your insurance company, these people, they come back and give that feedback to us. Look, I went to this particular hospital, it's not getting covered. Can you talk to the insurance company and see if they can be covered in the future? It may not affect me right now, but at least in the future, some other employee might benefit. So how quickly are the insurance companies able to take that feedback, act upon it? I know there are certain conditions of number of beds and other things, but how do they overcome it and kind of get that hospital into their network? The feedback mechanism and acceptance of feedback, right? And the third important aspect is, as to how quickly the awareness is being created by the insurance companies.
Okay.
So that is another, like, for example, today we have just renewed a contract with the insurance company, and we are running an awareness program for the employees.
Okay.
Right. So insurance company and the TPS come on board. They run a 1-hour program, awareness program, as these are the things. They take questions from the employees, they answer them on the spot. We all do that, right? But at the end of the day, how many employees come for these programs? Right. So that kind of an awareness creation, or voluntarily, do the insurance companies come forward and say, okay, I'm going to run this program across, and can I, ask can you ask your employees to come? Right. And the other thing with today's generation or with today's crowd, and the most important thing is your coverage. Your diseases and your ailments have evolved. We never had a COVID earlier, right? Today you have a COVID. So tomorrow we don't know what's going to come up, right? So are the insurance companies looking forward, foreseeing certain things that are going to hit us,
right,
and probably make adjustments accordingly rather than run around at the last minute?
Right. Priya, your views?
From a wellness perspective, Rahul, if you ask me, if I were to just hinge on that point,
yeah, sure.
Today's generation is changing, and gone are the days where they would want to plan much ahead of time, or save monies and save for assets and all of that. And today is all about experience.
Yeah.
And so they're fast connected to all the digital platforms. It's a good news and a bad news. Good news, because if you are able to offer that kind of fast transition and dynamic service, they'll be all gaga about the product and the offering, and it will take off. So that's
Right.
a good news. Talking about wellness, we have seen a lot of OPD aspect, and we in fact launched OPD now in the last 8-9 months, and we've seen a huge uptake in the younger population rather than any other population, where they are not buying the product only for IP claim.
Right.
And whether we like it or no, even if young people, India is a triple disease burden country. So we do have lifestyle related diseases, other chronic diseases, but we do have infectious disease, barring COVID. So dengue, malaria, chikungunya, you name it, and we have it, unfortunately, and some of those are not preventable. So
Right.
combination of wellness and acute claims is what these customers would look at. As insurers, we do realize that this is a segment which is fast growing, and eventually they will contribute to the largest pie of our business as we go forward. So we keep thinking ahead of time and creating sachet products where they don't have to shell out like large sum insureds. I'm moving from GMC to retail as well, because that's a segment we are investing in.
Right.
And wellness plays an important role. When I say wellness, it's not only preventive care, but any kind of consultation, any kind of OPD care, dental care, vision care, diagnostic tests, because this is the segment who wants to do tests on a regular basis to remain in charge of the health rather than be hit with any surprises. And then you have teleconsultation.
Right.
So we launched a product called as Pro Health Prime, which has pharmacy benefit. So pharmacy is covered, your diagnostics is covered, annual health checkup is covered,
Right.
you have telemedicine, and you have the entire physical consult of doctors and all the other aspects covered.
Right.
So we are continuously evolving with the need of this segment.
Yeah.
And wellness is the next big thing.
Yeah.
As a country, we are spending 60-70% of monies on OPD as out of pocket because many of the insurance companies do not cover OPD.
Right.
So that's an interesting space, and as we progress, we should see where it takes us, because it's a risky product to have, right? Because OPD will have huge utilization rates, and if you're going to create a OPD product which is if you're going to get the same at the same price where you walk into a clinic, then it doesn't make sense. There has to be cost saving or an arbitrage. So
that's very interesting, because I mean that's another thing we're trying to solve for, at least here at ekincare. We're trying to bring all of these services onto a single platform, because I think end of the day convenience becomes a huge factor in terms of how the whole process is experienced, whether you have to go to multiple different platforms to get what you want, or whether you can get all of this in a single platform. I think that also plays a huge role in terms of the experience factor, and that's something we are solving for here at ekincare. And I think, as you mentioned, it's a huge business, one, but secondly, I think it's a huge experience factor which a lot of people are looking for in terms of a convenience perspective. So yeah, that's a great point that you brought up. Absolutely. Again, I'd probably want to go on to our last question, and this would be for both of you. For Stanley, we can probably start with Stanley and then move on to you, Priya. So we work with a lot of small organizations, SMEs and MSMEs, who are looking for a GMC and the wellness piece. What in your opinion should be the 3 or 4 really important things that they should look into while picking a GMC? And when I see GMC, I'm not talking about which insurer or which insurance provider. I'm talking from a product perspective. What are those 2 or 3 key elements that they should look at having within their group health insurance, so that they can get the best possible coverage? Because for smaller organizations, cost is a huge factor. They will think a lot, think very hard before they put that money into this piece. So Stanley, if we could start with you, what would be those 2 or 3 really important aspects of a GMC that small organizations should look at while deciding on a product for their organization? Stanley, I think you're on mute. I can't hear you.
So sorry.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry about it.
No worries.
So one of the key aspects is the age demographics of the workforce in a smaller organization. And see, because I think that will decide on the kind of ailments and the kind of claims that will come forward, right? And that will actually help in deciding the premium or the cost that the company is going to bear on behalf of the employees. So the age demographics is very important. Second aspect is the nature of work. Right. So, and the kind of business that you are into. And again, that you correlate that with your ailments and the illnesses. Right. Okay. So these 2 plus the other important part will be the kind of budgets that you are able to afford. Right. Got it. So these are the 3 key aspects, if you ask me, will kind of decide the kind of parts that they're looking at. Okay. Priya?
So I think, agree with Stanley, but most importantly is what is the benefit structure, and what is your demography of consumers. So if you have large, employees, younger population, what is a life stage? So for example, you could have, what kind of policy limits, what kind of coverages, PEDs are generally covered. Deductible, do you need to apply deductible? Should you also include maternity and infertility? So those are aspects, as I said, it's a balance of how much you can cover versus what is the affordability. So premium affordability, policy limit, what is the sum insured, you wish to offer. So all of those aspects would play an important role, and any corporate should analyze the risk, should analyze how comprehensive product would they want to offer to their employees and workforce, and accordingly, make the decision. That's what I would say.
Got it. Great. Thank you so much, both of you. I will move on to, I think we are running a little behind schedule as well. So I'll move on to a few quick questions from the audience. So Priya, there's one question for you. how are you refining the industry for the women workforce as their needs are different across all segments of companies? I think this is a very interesting question because over the last 6 months, we at ekincare have also seen a very different perspective being taken by organizations in terms of the benefits in their group health insurance targeted towards women as well. So I'd love to know your thoughts and opinion on this, Priya.
Sure.
Yeah.
So dual perspective, one as an employer, and second as an insurer. So I will, start with the insurance perspective, because we have in our, top ACE products, one of the global product, or rather a very comprehensive product. We've created a rider. Especially for women, from women health perspective, in terms of gynec consultation, their screening test, their annual health checkup, and couple of other features have been added, especially only from women perspective, including support from mental health perspective, the stress between, I mean, not that women are predisposed to stress, but given the kind of dual responsibilities working women especially would have to handle, how do you really balance? So that aspect has also been thought through. Second thing that I would like to mention, that we recently conducted multiple what we observed as an insurer is that the prevalence of cancer has increased, and within cancer, breast cancer prevalence has increased in the age band of women, between 35 to 45. So we conducted targeted, screening. There is a, new technology where, through sound waves, you could do preventive kind of scans, and with that help women detect, if at all, early on. So those are kind of initiatives from a health and wellness perspective we have taken. We've conducted for groups and in certain pockets in retail standpoint, we've conducted awareness and preventive care for women. Those kind of initiatives we've taken. As an employer, understanding the nitty-gritties of how COVID has upended, our lives, and all of us have, no offense, but all of us have worked from home. We've had remote working, but unfortunately, women working from home had to end up doing dual responsibility to finish their work hours and deliver their responsibilities towards their professional career. But at the same time, because they are at home and they are, at the dispense of the family, they would say, अच्छा ये क्यों नहीं कर लेते, वो क्यों नहीं हो रहा है, खाना क्यों नहीं बना देते. So it's like a dual addition of stress that we observe. So we did whatever we could do to support the women employees from a flexi hour perspective, extended work from home even after COVID, identified roles where, it's a gig economy. Now contractual jobs are coming to fore, need basis jobs are coming to fore. So creating certain jobs where you could allow this segment, women's segment, who has, kind of gone from the mainstream and, ended up being a homemaker. How could you allow them part-time jobs on contracts? So those are things that we've really taken as steps, and it is just for the starters and a long way ahead. And a lot of work needs to be done on that aspect is what I personally believe in.
Right. Thank you. Stanley, there's one question for you. I think it's more in terms of, from an HR perspective, what are the kind of challenges that you face, say, from rolling in from 1 year to the next year? How do you evaluate the benefits that you've provided in 1 year? And then how do you define your next bunch of benefits for the following year? What are the steps and measures you take to evaluate and then decide in terms of what basket to keep and what to add to your basket for a following year?
So one is definitely, as I mentioned earlier, is a feedback mechanism that we have.
Right.
That, we look at the current basket of benefits that we are currently giving, and then we kind of ask the employees, because people also come to us from different employers, right? Different companies.
Right.
So we would like to compare, our basket with the benefits that they would have got in their earlier companies.
Right.
So that will actually give us an outside view of how good or bad our services are, right? So that's one mechanism that we have. Right. Second is kind of doing industry-wide benchmarking.
Right.
With other companies, we do participate in different surveys and all that.
Right.
Third-party agencies, and where we get the view of the benefits that is there from other companies. So these are the mechanisms that we have, and also going through the personal experiences.
Okay.
people get back to us, say that was what I faced, so can we do it this way? So these are kind of three mechanisms that we kind of follow.
Got it. Got it. Also, another question over here, one final question. Mental wellness and therapy, is it covered in health insurance in India? Post-COVID, that has become extremely important for us now. Another question from the audience. So Priya, I guess you can take that.
Absolutely, absolutely agree. And, I would like to mention to the viewers that, there is a mental health act that was passed in 2017 by the Supreme Court. And by virtue of that act, all mental illnesses have to be, treated at par with physical illnesses, and they don't have to be distinctly, observed or treated. It's no more a taboo. So that is my simple answer to it. And I do agree that, during COVID, even if people were homebound and they did not have to travel, their offices came home and basically they were technically operating from home. For working people as well as people who are not non-working people, the stress levels went up because of the whole environment. And, that's where the mental well-being and awareness around how to really de-stress played a very important role. And, as an insurer and as corporates, we do conduct a lot of awareness programs, a lot of fitness and preventive, mechanism like yoga, all the other activities to remain active. We do conduct in partnership with players like ekincare. So yes, this is an area of focus. And to answer your question, yes, insurance products do cover, depending on the criticality and the risk appetite
Right.
of each insurer, there are protocols that are being followed and coverage is offered.
Okay. So Stanley, one final question for the day. I think some of the audience want to know, could you list what are some of the post-COVID expectations or changes in the workforce that you have experienced?
So one of the biggest, what I should say, requests or the experience that I'm seeing in the post-COVID kind of workforce, post-COVID experiences, people want to continue to work from home, right? And that is one of the biggest thing. And the other thing, the second aspect, what as Priya already mentioned, is the kind of, we are seeing an increase in kind of mental wellness issues post-COVID. So that is another key aspect. And I think we are running a lot of programs as a company to overcome it, right? So not only stress related, but so many other issues around it, right?
Right.
And the third aspect and the most important aspect is, of creating that awareness, people working out of remote locations, creating that awareness about insurance benefits, right? And how it can help their own personal and their family lives. I think that is something that we are seeing post-COVID, to reinforce that messaging.
Got it. Great. So I think, that was a great, knowledgeable session with a lot of great, valuable inputs from both of you, Stanley and Priya. I think if I could just summarize, what all we discussed today, I think post-COVID, there's been a greater understanding or appetite for being aware of what all coverages employees can avail today. And that's where the importance of a GMC has probably kicked in a lot more, say, over the last 2-3 years. And I think we're also seeing greater flexibility from insurers in terms of what all terms and conditions they can provide for in terms of addressing the needs of the current employee base right now in today's world. I also think another major point that came up was how GMC and the wellness aspect is effectively going hand in hand in today's world, because we're catering to multiple generations of workforce in today's world. So I guess an approach which has a unified platform which brings all of this and ties all of this in together becomes a really interesting and a very attractive opportunity for organizations in terms of the benefits that they provide for their employees. And I think that pretty much covers how we're looking at even small organizations having to gain a lot from carefully designing a good GMC policy for themselves in terms of taking care of their workforce, however small they may be. And I think insurance companies have identified that, and that's something that is very much available in the market today for smaller organizations as well. So once again, Stanley, Priya, thank you so much for your time. It was wonderful having this discussion with both of you. Thanks to the audience for sparing your time and asking some really great questions as well. Hopefully we'll do this soon once more. Thank you once again, both Stanley and Priya. Thank you.
Thank you, Rahul.
Thank you, Rahul. Thank you, ekincare. Great pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.